Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the second in a series of positive approach to care webinars sponsored by the Hawaii Circle of Care for Dementia Project, a project of Catholic Charities of Hawaii that is funded through a grant from the Administration for Community Living's Alzheimer's Disease Programs Initiatives. We thank our partners, Haleku'iki, for hosting this on their Zoom platform today. You'll notice there's a poll up, and so if you haven't had a chance to respond to it, please go ahead and do so now. My name is Diane Terada with Catholic Charities Hawaii, and I'm very happy to have you here today. The project Hawaii Circle of Care for Dementia is part of the senior services that Catholic Charities offers to the community. And if you'd like to know more information about our senior services, you can check our website, catholiccharities.hawaii.org, or contact our senior services helpline at 527-4777. So now I'd like to introduce Jody Michon, who is our project coordinator, who's going to do some housekeeping and introduce our great trainer for today.
Thank you very much, Diane. Good morning to everyone. The goal of this grant that we're doing is to expand the circle of care for people with memory loss and their caregivers by providing effective dementia-capable programs, services, and resources that help them remain independent and safe in their communities. So these sorts of dementia trainings have gone virtual, as you know, because of the pandemic, but it's really great that we can reach everybody in other places, neighbor islands, and even other states to join us today. So we're very happy about that. So you'll see a quiz that Dorothy is going to go more into detail about. Please complete the quiz before we start. And just some tech reminders for today. We have you all muted, so you won't be able to ask questions audio-wise, but you can type your questions into the Q&A section. You can address private conversations with Diane, Dorothy, or I in the chat box. If there's any tech issues or anything, or personal questions, please chat them into there. But for any questions during, please put them into the Q&A box. So if you're logging on as a group in a boardroom, please let me know if there are any others attending today so I can send them the information. The series is being recorded and it will be archived on the Catholic Charities website, and I'll let you know when that's up. Now to introduce Dorothy. Dorothy is a dementia care specialist and a certified TIPA SNO positive approach to care trainer and national support mentor. She is the Director of Community Engagement for Haleku'iki Memory Care Home in Nu'uanu, Bayside, and Pali locations. Homes devoted to excellence and current international best practices in dementia care and environment. Dorothy has more than 20 years of professional and personal experience in caring for people living with dementia. Her positive approach to care workshops provide essential information for families and professional care partners on how to have a positive and meaningful relationship with loved ones with Alzheimer's disease and other forms of dementia throughout their journey. Her trainings focus on understanding what's happening to the brain so that we can empathize, adjust our approach and expectations, and be able to connect and support those who are living with dementia. With that, I'll turn it over to you, Dorothy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jody, for that kind introduction. And thank you, everybody who is participated in the poll. That's just the 5-question pre-test. We will be doing the same 5 questions at the very end, and we really appreciate your participation because it does help us with the grant to be able to get funding for these and future webinars. So this webinar, a little more housekeeping, will also be being recorded. And you'll be getting a link to that afterwards. Jody, I believe, has already sent out the PowerPoint slides and the handout. We do not have any CEs available for this webinar, but you will receive a certificate showing participation, so that if you can use it for in-service credit hours if you're a healthcare long-term care professional. And also at the very end, this is also related to the grant, you will get, as soon as you leave this webinar, a screen will come up to participate in a survey. We really value your feedback. And again, it's data that we need to collect to submit to the grant making organization. So I want to thank Catholic Charities for hosting this event, and Holly Kuike as well. I'm very excited to start with everyone. I see we have about 108 people here. Whoops. Some of you have been to webinars in the past, but if not, I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Dorothy Colby, and I, in addition to working at Holly Kuike, I'm also a positive approach to care trainer. I do public workshops, and now, of course, they're all on the web, and I do the dementia care training for the staff at Holly Kuike as well. But in addition to that, I have a very close personal connection to dementia. I've had a number of different family members who have gone through the journey of dementia. My grandmother, who I will introduce you to in this webinar, she lived with Alzheimer's disease, and my father had vascular or stroke-related dementia, and my father-in-law, he had Parkinson's-related dementia. So they were three very different and unique individuals, and three different causes of their dementia. So each of their journey was as unique as they were. So we have all gathered here today and taken this time out of what I know is a busy and often stressful time these days to come together to look at what is that journey? What is the journey that our loved ones, whether it's our family member or people that we love and care for professionally, where are they in their journey? What is happening with their changes in their brain throughout that journey? And what is possible in the future for the rest of their path of their journey? And how can we be there to help and support them whereas they need it at every step of the way, from the beginning to the very end of life. So this is our overview of what we're going to be going through. We're going to look inward also to see how our own thoughts and feelings affect how we perceive people who are living with dementia, and how we help or maybe don't help sometimes. We're going to discuss the importance of language and words, and we're going to look at this, the description of this was GEMS. We're going to look at the Positive Approach to Care TPIS knows GEMS rating or rating scale to see where people are and what's different about the GEMS system as opposed to traditional dementia scales. And we will be looking in detail at each of the steps of the journey. And one of the big things we'll be looking at is, of course, it's very important to understand what is lost. And we're very keenly aware of that as things are changing, what things people can't do anymore, and there are many. But we also want to keep an open mind and heart to what's still left. What abilities are there? And there are many. And so how do we figure out what is still there, and how do we reach that, and how do we connect that way? And then we will also be having a question and answer period at the very end. We'll leave about 15 minutes for that. So before we get started, I am going to end this pre-test now. If you did not get a chance to participate in it, it is okay. It'll come up again at the end. So let me just take that one down here. Here we go. I'll go right in. So one of the first things I just want to do a little quick overview here is we're all here around the topic of dementia and the journey of dementia. But to give us a common language, like what the heck are we talking about when we talk about dementia? And you'll see me wave my arms around a lot like this. And if you are not shy or are feeling bold in your office setting or at home, please wave your arms around as well. It really does help us as human beings remember what we're learning. Dementia is the big umbrella term. The umbrella term, it itself is not the disease or the diagnosis. It is a set of symptoms together that all the items that you see under the umbrella are causes of dementia. So you have Alzheimer's related dementia, which was my grandmother's, vascular, stroke related dementia, Lewy bodies, frontotemporal, and then all these ones on the right hand side. So you might have alcoholism here, football players, too many hits to the head is not good for your brain. So it's a very complicated picture. So a lot of times you think of it as one thing, but there are many, many different causes. They affect the brains differently. And you can have more than one. You can have a mixed picture dementia, as they call it. So I can have Alzheimer's disease and have a lifelong history of alcoholism, things like that. So each person who is living with dementia is unique in themselves and unique in their journey. And so I'm going to go forward just one more. And so we're going to, with the focus of understanding for us, we'll start with understanding what is really going on in the brain, because the journey of dementia is all about brain change. We think of it often as primarily memory loss or challenging behaviors, but all those things that we are seeing, all those changes we are noticing, all those challenges that we are having, all stem from the changes that those diseases under the umbrella, those things that are causing brain damage and ultimate brain death, are doing to the different segments of our brain that control everything about us. So this is a PET scan here. I wanted to give a visual overview of the brain changes here. So on the left-hand side here, these two brains, top and bottom, it's the same brain. One's a little higher slice up than the other one. This top part of the brain is the frontal lobe. If you touch the front of your head, this is your frontal lobe, your executive function center. And then in the back, this part here, touch the back of your head, that's your occipital lobe. And so the red is the hot, high firing, you're in the PET scan machine and they ask you to solve a problem, name all the animals you can in a set amount of time, for example, and you can see where the high brain activity is. The blue, purple is the no brain activity or very low brain activity, and that is normal. We have pockets of our brain that are fluid, and that is perfectly normal. It's supposed to look like this. So the next brain over is someone who's living with early Alzheimer's disease. So if you take a look, note to yourself, think to yourself, what do you notice is different about the red, about the purple, about the light blue? What's changing? Less red, more blue and purple. So less hot activity, more inactivity. Now this is early. And so from the outside, a person living at this stage of living with dementia, well, they look like they did before, a very older person, more very likely, but you don't see the changes externally that we see here internally. Other diseases of organ failure, such as heart failure, lung failure, kidney failure, we often see external signs that let us know, like, oh, this person has COPD and I can tell they're having trouble breathing because they have a cannula on, or their posture is different and you see the labored breath. We know there is a physical impairment because of this disease process, but it's not obvious from the outside with dementia. And that's one of the things that makes it really, really hard to understand what is happening, because we cannot physically see those brain changes. What we see is the external behavior and perceptions and movements that are changing that let us know what's happening inside here. And then here's late Alzheimer's. So this is someone who's reaching closer to the end of life. And then the child here is an 18-month-old child. So if you look at, again, comparing the early and the late, again, we're seeing more changes in the brain. It's all about the brain change. So again, looking at purple versus and red, what do you notice? Red is getting smaller and smaller, and it's now down to our central, more primitive center of the brain, where our thrive to survive, the things that keeps us, the automatic bodily functions are preserved, and a little on vision here, and a little on our right and left temporal lobes with some language and things like that. So while there is quite a bit more purple and a lot less red, it is not none. It looks like, compared to this, that there's not much, but look at the child's brain. So this is an 18-month-old child, and we've all known 18-month-old children, and there is a lot that do perceive in the world. They have a high amount of curiosity, and there's a lot of ways to connect with them. But using higher language is not generally one of them, and they have a lot of things that they can't do on their own either. So I want us to take a look at this and kind of challenge ourselves today to look at the person who is reaching the end of their life with dementia, in this case, in this brain, Alzheimer's. They are who they were, but they're different. Their brains are different, but they are who they were. And we can reach them. There is life, and there is a heart all the way through the end. And we're going to look at each stage from this normal aging brain to the early, all the way through the end, to see how we can still find them and see them all the way through and help and support them as they need. Because with the changes going more blue than red, they are going to need us. We are the ones who have the healthy brains, and so we are going to make up for what they have lost. And together we can go through this journey of life. So just as a quick physical glance at the brain, so this is a normal, these people kindly donated their brains upon death so that we can all learn from them. The one on the left is a normal healthy brain without any disease process, without any dementia. And then the one on the right is someone who passed away from Alzheimer's. So you can see, we saw in the PET scan, the activity level changes, but that activity level changes comes from the cells of the brain are shrinking and dying. And this journey from a healthy brain through the end of life with a dementia, the cells are shrinking and dying, the chemical production is waning and diminishing, and those are the things that are causing those changes we saw in that PET scan. So you can see the physical shrinking in this slide here. So I wanted to introduce you to, I mentioned her, to my grandmother. So I love to bring her in. I talk about her a lot. She was a big part of my life. She helped raise me. With my mother and I lived with her and my grandpa growing up. And she, of all the people, of all the, professionally, the hundreds of people, but, in my family, the many people I've known who live with dementia, she is the one I knew from, one of the ones I knew from beginning to end. So when I knew her, when she did not have any dementia, and then when dementia signs appeared, and she lived with us all the way through the end of her life. But the one thing that is also a great, she was one of my greatest teachers personally, but also with dementia, because when her signs of dementia started showing up, I think I wrote here in 1985, I knew zero about dementia, and neither did my family. We had no idea what it was. It just seemed like the phrases you would use in the old days, like, oh, you get old, you get senile, she's really losing it. We didn't, she's just being stubborn, or all those things we did not understand. Well, of course, we were doing the best we could with what we knew. And so I learned a lot from her throughout her journey. So in hindsight, this wedding picture of her with me was about, I would say, 1991. So at that time she was still living semi-independently. She didn't really get a diagnosis till the early 90s. But there were definitely signs in hindsight, things like the repetitive questions, losing things and thinking they were stolen. There are things that we just didn't understand at the time. So I want us to take a look at, to start, with how we traditionally talk about the different levels and stages or rating systems of for people who are living with dementia. Many of you, for your own loved one, have perhaps gone to a healthcare provider and gotten maybe you've gotten a diagnosis, it's Alzheimer's or it's vascular, and you may have gotten a rating. So there are many different rating systems, and we're going to take a look at a few of them. And while we're looking at them, I want you to think to yourself, and if you could take your own thumb and kind of, give yourself an up and down here as we go through them, like, how do you feel about that? When you hear that rating, your mother is, and I'll do the first one, normal aging. She seems okay. This is normal aging. The things you're experiencing, it doesn't seem like dementia. How are you feeling like that? You have a pretty good diagnosis or not so good? So just kind of do that to yourself a little as we're going through. Mild. This is very mild. Then just at the very beginning of the journey. So how do you feel about that one? Mild. Moving on to moderate. Mild to moderate. Well, we moved on a little bit. It's still moderate, but it's progressing. So thumbs up, thumbs down. It might be thumbs middle. Moderately severe. That one is one. I don't know why that one makes me crack up every single time, but the difference between moderately severe and severe. Where are we now with our thumbs? Probably most down here. And then last of all, very severe, very severe. So these might be terms that you have heard, you might have, as a healthcare professional, you might have used as well. This is very, very, very common descriptors. So here's another one here. Early, middle, and late. So when you think, so this is a three-tier system in this case. Your mother is at early stage. How's that? How do you feel about that? Middle, late. Most thumbs go down towards the end. And then there's the numeric systems. And so there are ones that go to 3, ones that go to 5, ones that go to 7. And so in general, those first 3, 1 is the best, or air quotes, the best. 7 is the later ones. And then some are reversed. So 6 might be the earlier stage and 1, so there might be a numeric system. So I want to pause for a second. I'm going to put up another poll. I want to put up here. Just 1 second here. So for yourself, for your loved one, I'm going to launch this poll. Which of these dementia rating terms have you been given or heard in relation to your loved one? So you can check more than one of these. So I'll put it up here. Okay, so have you been told they're mild or early stage, moderate to middle, severe to late, severe end? I kind of group those two together. You may have also been given a number. So you might have given a word, you might have been given a number. So go ahead and just, I'll leave this up as we're talking here a little bit to see kind of where you've been told or even where you're feeling you are in these. And I want us to take a look at all these systems as a whole and think a moment for yourself. Do they when you're looking at them, so no matter which one of these you clicked on this poll, like I'll share this out when we come up, but some of you are checking that you were given severe or moderate. When you look at the scale and you think which of these would you prefer? Which of these did you put the thumbs up here? So when you go into the physician again and they say, well, it was mild before, but now it's getting pretty severe. One level is always better than the other. We all wish that we weren't moving down the scale, because the best outcome we always feel is that it doesn't change, that it stays at the top. And the hard thing about all of these scales is that they're very comparative and they carry a lot of judgment from us. One is better than the other, right? I asked you to rate these, one better than the other as we went along. They're set up to look at what is lost, which is very important to understand. But it's a hard thing it makes it hard for us to talk about. It makes it hard to understand what it exactly looks like. For example, I will get a call here at Halikwike, and they'll say, my mother is, I took her to the doctor and they said she's, has severe dementia. And then when I get a description of it, to me, it doesn't sound as severe as it might be, has seemed to the person who is calling. So it's hard to know. You don't get a real picture of the abilities that are left. So it's hard to know, especially the ones that are moderately severe, when it's hard to get a real picture of the person. The person now has these labels on them, and we have yet to figure out a way to reach them. Also, same with numbers. Numbers are very weighted. Everybody likes to be first. Nobody wants to be seventh, for example. So what I want us to do is to go ahead and, if you make a timeout symbol. When it comes to dementia, it's not about better or worse. It's about who I am as a person and where I am as a journey, and supporting me and valuing me equally from beginning to end. So I want to move away, help us move away from this comparison and judgment about which is better, and to see if we can find a way to have a common language and treasure each person all along the way. So I'm going to end this poll real quick here before we move on and share so people can see. This one I will share out and share results here so you can see. So quite, you know, some people have been given numbers, more people have been given primarily words here, and you can kind of see a little temperature taking of where people are in their journey with their loved ones here. Okay, I'm gonna put this on the side here. Here we go. So we're gonna be looking at this other system. Now it is also a rating system, and it's based on the Allen cognitive levels, which is it's the 6-to-1 system, which is an occupational therapy system. And Tiva Snow, who is the founder of Positive Approach to Care, and developed this system for us to be able to look at it as a in a more positive way, and to also to include ourselves in this journey of brain change. So before we start talking about the specifics of the brain change, I want us to look at this GEMS wheel here. So the top one here is the Sapphire. So it starts at 12 o'clock basically, and then goes around clockwise. Then Diamond, Emerald, Amber, Ruby, and Pearl. So there's 6 gems in this wheel. So if you take a look at each of these gems, and just look at them as the gemstones. You could picture a piece of jewelry made out of them, or if you were able to hold one of these under the light, you know, are there any of these that you would consider not beautiful, not unique, not something that you would want to have in a ring, or to be able to give as a gift to someone? Each of these gems is very precious. Also, they're very familiar gems to us. We all know what color is a sapphire? Blue. You know, how expensive are diamonds? Very. The traits of them, if anybody asked you to describe these gems, you could give a little description of what is a pearl, what is a ruby. So these gemstones and their characteristics is what we're going to look at to correspond to different steps of the journey. So the top one, the Sapphire, that one, go ahead and give your brains a nice loving hug. Your brain is on this journey as well. We're all carrying our brains through our lives, and they are aging with us. I know the outside is obvious aging, but the inside ages too. And there is normal aging brain change that is not dementia. And so our brains, we have to love and understand as well. So they are included in this GEMS wheel. We'll be looking at those changes. And we, the Sapphire gem, are the one that's here to help and support the other gems in the wheel. So from the earlier portion of the journey of living with dementia, Diamond, all the way through towards the end of life with the Pearl stage. I'm gonna stop sharing this result here. There we go, and go forward a little bit here. So, as I mentioned, so Sapphire is the very first one. So if you look at the Sapphire gem, the gem itself, it has, and here in Hawaii, we have so many beautiful blue things to think of. When we think of that depth of blue of Sapphire, things come to mind like the sky, the ocean. There's so many things that we feel the depth of the blue. There's a phrase, true blue friend. As we're aging, our brains are slower. It might take us a little longer to remember that. What was her name again? It starts with a B. Betty. I've got it. I can still get it. It just takes me a little longer. I might forget why I went into a room, but you know, give me a minute. I can figure it out. Or if I walk back and sit back in that chair, then I'll figure it out. That is all normal aging. So we are the Sapphires. The Diamonds are the very early stages where we're seeing more repetition of questions, maybe repetition of actions. I need routines. And what are diamonds used for in industry? Cutting, right? They're hard and rigid. They are formed under pressure. Coals become diamonds. And so the quality of the diamond is very sparkly and beautiful, has many, many facets. I can really, really shine, but I can also be very, very cutting. Emeralds. So let's think about the stone, the emerald. The emerald stone is now not clear so much anymore. The emerald stone, deep green. And that green, for us, of course, here in Hawaii, we also have all the foliage and so much green in our lives. Another place we see green a lot, traffic signals, go. So green is on the go. True emeralds, the emerald stone, natural made emeralds, not man-made emeralds, all have a flaw in them. And that's just how they are. Man-made emeralds can be perfect, but real emeralds have a flaw. So this is a trait that we can remember for people who are moving down the wheel towards the emerald gem state, that they have flaws inside and they're making mistakes, but they are not aware of them. You know, I don't realize I am having these flaws, and I am on the go. I might not know where, but I am on the go. The next one, amber. So if we think about amber, the stone, it's a little different than the others because it's actually made from organic matter. It's the sap. Everybody remember Jurassic Park? The sap comes down the tree, captures that mosquito that they used to make all the dinosaurs, but it captures a moment in time. It's fossilized, turns into amber, the stone that we know. And amber, for me, amber is actually one of my favorite gemstones. It's also has a special place in my heart in terms of a dementia gem state. I am in the moment. I am all about the now, and I'm all about sensations, what I feel, I'm all about the now. We're going to go deeper into each of these. The next one, ruby. So ruby is you think about ruby the stone. So I want us to think about ruby the stone, the depth of that color, the intensity. Oh, I'm going to take one step back. I almost forgot. So in the stoplight sequence, green is go, yellow is caution. And then we move to red, stop. So if we think about the color red and the ruby, stop. Things are stopping. My fine motor skills are stopping. I have trouble getting started. And if I'm going, I have trouble stopping. I've really lost my fine control. And then the last one, pearls. So if you think about pearls, you want to make with your hand a little oyster shell. You take a look on the outside. What does that look like? The shell is pretty gnarly looking and sharp, really hard to open. You might not, I'm not sure who the first person who figured out what was in there, but you might not think, oh, there's something beautiful inside. For the pearl state, towards the end of the journey with dementia, the outside, the shell, our bodies have really changed, and they can be very hard to look at. I am very, very thin. This might be skin and bones, but that pearl, open it up a little bit, look inside your pearl, it's still there. But how can we get connected, even at this stage where I am closing down? So each of these gem states is purposeful to help us connect the qualities that we know so well of each of these gemstones, and the beauty of each of these, holding the beauty of each of these stones in our hand, and having it be representative of the person that we love and care for, and recognizing what these different gem states need and their abilities are, and how we can meet them. So I'm going to go forward a little bit here. So it's not, in terms of working and helping people with dementia, it's not all about the loss. It is not untreatable, and by that I mean it is not curable, but we can do things in our approach, with our understanding, and ways to help and support that can really help make life better for people who are living with dementia. And it is not unpredictable. There are things that things don't just come out of nowhere. And if we can take a moment to pause and step back, we can figure out what things are triggers, where it's coming from. If we understand how the different gem states perceive the world, which is very different than we do, we can join them on their journey and figure out how to help. And lastly, it doesn't just affect the person who's living with dementia, it's all of us. If one person's living with dementia, you make a big circle, everybody around them is living with it as well. It affects all of us. We're not walking this journey alone. So this one we talked about a little bit already. Why use the gems instead? To really hold them as precious and unique and have a positive common language that we can share. So rather than my saying to you, your loved one lives at Halikuiki, for example, you know, your mom has been at the Emerald Gem State for quite a while now. You know, she's really been on the go and been very active. As we know, we can laugh about that a little bit, but you know, things have changed, and really she's starting to get more towards the ruby stage now. So, you know, maybe she skipped skipped past the amber stage. It's a way for us to talk, and we can now focus on the beautiful qualities of that new state and what still remains with that gem state. Based on the Allen cognitive levels here, we may have put that one already. Okay, I'm going to go forward here. So we are going to look at, so we take a look now at each of the gems, their characteristics, abilities, and things that can help, because a lot of the different parts of your brain are going to go forward here. So if you touch the front, your executive function in the front, your higher thinking, your good judgment, all of that here, your impulse control. Then if you touch the left-hand side of your brain, higher language, right-hand side, the rhythm and automatic speech, poetry, prayer, all those things, your vision. I'm having you touch all over your brain, your sensory motor strip. All those things are changing through the journey of dementia. And we want to take a look as we go through these different gems, what's different and how we can help. We'll have to make adjustments. We, the Sapphires, are the ones who have the healthy brains and are the ones who can be flexible and can change. But I'm going to pause here for a moment, because while we are the Sapphire, the people in Sapphire state who can choose, who can be flexible, I want to acknowledge this moment in time that we are all in, this time of global pandemic. It is an extreme amount of stress and grief and challenges for all of us, each of us uniquely, and all of those we love. Stress is hard on our brains, and as I mentioned before, diamonds are formed under stress. Even we who are living with normal aging brains might have some cognitive challenges sometimes. You may have noticed more lately that it might be harder for you to remember things or harder to focus. Stress, I want us to acknowledge that we're all under a great deal of stress right now. And so we are going to, everybody take a deep breath. Breathe it out. We're going to do it a couple times. One more time. This is for you. Because for us to be there, to be able to offer that help and support to all of our other gems that we love, we have to care for and love our own brain and take those moments to breathe, to do things that are caring for ourselves, because for us to be able to help another, kind of like that oxygen mask for yourself before you put it on others, we need to help ourselves be able to maintain our healthy brains, because the people that we are caring for can't do it without us. So we're going to move forward here to diamonds. So we talked a little bit about the diamonds in terms of them being sharp and cutting. So still clear. So this is early stage. So when I say still clear, the diamond, of course, is a beautiful, sparkly, clear thing. You caring for your mother, for example, with my grandmother, it's like we see the challenge she's having, but when one of my uncles would call her on the phone and have a wonderful conversation with her, he would get back on the phone with my mother and say, "Gosh, I don't know what you're talking about. Mom seems fine. She was sharp. I don't know what you're talking about." So people, and it's so infuriating for you as the direct caregiver. Like, what are you talking about? because I can still shine and under without being under any additional pressure and being in a familiar social situation, I can still do a lot. I can have a lot of great conversations. I can do a lot of chit-chatting. But if anything's different, I can be very hard and rigid and inflexible because my brain is changing and routine helps me get from moment to moment. If everything is just the same, then I can make it work. But if anything changes and you think I'm being stubborn and rigid, and maybe I was always kind of a stubborn person, but now it's a lot worse. But it's my brain changing and trying to cope with the world. And when things aren't working, I can be cutting and seem very mean at times because I just can't do it. And that can be a really tough, this is a gem state where there's often a lot of headbutting because perhaps we might not recognize it. And for example, with my grandmother, we didn't really understand what was going on. We didn't know that it was dementia. It just seemed like, she was being an ordinary old lady in the old words. The last one, all the dollar signs, we all know that of all the gems in this gem wheel, this is the most expensive one. This is another early thing, might be an obsession with money. I don't have the money to pay for this. I can't, where such looking for money in my purse. Just like I'm fixated on money, and they're oftentimes not having it or someone stealing it. It's just a part of the changes that are going on in my brain. And again, it relates to the diamond. So if you think of that as it's a characteristic that you can relate to this stage. So the emeralds, as we're moving forward. So while I mentioned in the diamond state that you might be able to, at that point, not acknowledge, or some people might be able to not acknowledge that there is brain change going on because they are so clear. At the emerald state, it is not clear anymore. That is not a clear stone, that is a colored stone. I am not sharp, I might be getting vague. My language starts to get, I'm looking for the one, the one that you had the other day. Yes, you know what it is. And I get frustrated because you're not understanding what I'm saying because I am being very vague. Communication starts to be more of a challenge, and I'm making mistakes, like I said, and I don't realize it. And when you point them out to me, I get pretty pissed off about it. I'm just fine. I'm a perfectly good driver. My grandmother would clip the garbage truck, the old guy standing on the back, and we didn't realize that she was having issues with her peripheral vision and judgment changes. We thought she was just a bad old driver, but older drivers get a bad rap, I would say, but we didn't recognize that, and she could not recognize that she was making mistakes. And that's a hard one because we see the mistakes so clearly. It is clear as day to us that, your purse does not belong in the freezer, for example. But one of the things with the brain changes with dementia is it takes away my ability to self-assess. So you and I can look in the mirror and say, yes, I'm good at this. No, I'm not so good at that. Yes, I made this mistake. I am not able now to do that self-assessment. I seem fine. I don't know what you're talking about. I've driven my whole life. I thought you had to drive. Yeah, and it becomes really, really hard. You will argue and argue and argue with me. And by the way, I wonder if anybody, they think to yourself, has ever won one of those arguments with someone living with dementia. Have you ever been able to, when that pause, when you find yourself saying the same thing over and over again and butting heads, pause and step away. Take a deep breath, because they cannot change what's happening in their brain, and you're not going to win that argument. Their reality is their reality, and it's up to us to make that adjustment and work with them without the headbutting. So amber, yellow, caution, amber, caught in a moment. So we're all about sensation. When I say that, I mean, I have a high need. I want to, if we were here in person, I would be walking around and touching you all and smiling at you. I have no sense of personal boundaries, and I need that sensory input. I'll touch things, I'll put them in my mouth, possibly things that might not be edible, but I have a low sensory tolerance. So when you are trying to help me, especially in those high sensory areas, mouth, nose, feet, toes, fingers, genitals, those are all areas. Where do we do all personal care? Those areas, toothbrushing, right? Showering, toilet, bathroom helping, nail clipping. It's overwhelming sensation, and I will pull away from that. So it's the amber state is one of the most challenging in that I will wear you out. I have zero safety awareness. Not unlike very young children. Who's in charge of safety? Not me. I don't realize what a danger I can be to myself and others. And it's not because I'm trying to be this way. It is just that I'm experiencing the world, and I still have a lot of curiosity, and I don't have any safety awareness. So when we're reaching this is where the red flag can come up. It's just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to connect. Here we go. And then rubies. So the ruby has hidden depths. And even though there's a red light on the fine motor, so put your hands up like this. And if you take your first three fingers, So these are your fine motor skill fingers. So thread a needle, right? Threading a needle is a fine motor skill. Holding your fork like that, working your chopsticks even, things like that. These are your fine, button a button, those are fine motor skills. And then if you take your hands in these last two fingers, squeeze them down. So pliers, hammer, opening a jar. These are our strength fingers. So all dementias start to affect your fine motor skills first, but strength fingers remain. So whereas I used to eat this way, you might notice me using my hand more this way, for example. But the fine motor is not just fingers, fine motor in my feet, fine motor in my mouth. I might not be able to move my food around properly much as well before my pocket, and my lips aren't as good as holding it in. So all the fine motor starts to falter, and my wake sleep patterns are changing as well. So it really starts to affect my motor ability. And then the last one here, there's the pearl. So at the pearl stage, I'm starting to withdraw internally into my shell, and the shell is my body. And as the journey through dementia goes through living with dementia, you might notice I'm sleeping more. And by the time I get to pearl, I might be sleeping quite a lot. And most of the time I might have me contracted as well. So I'm curled up like this. My muscles can contract, but they can't uncontract. I'm really shut in, and it's very, very hard to connect. I'm more primitive reflexes than before on the outside. But I want you to take the shell and take a look at the shell on the outside. It's so easy to focus only on the shell. We have to take care of the shell. We have to get this body clean. We got to lift this up. And I'm so contracted, and you lifted, and I don't want to yell too loud on the microphone, but I'll like moan and yell, and it's painful for me because my muscles are so contracted. So if we take a breath and find a way to connect with the person at this stage, through deep, gentle touch, to be able to reach that moment when that pearl can open. You can connect, and they can, where it might be vague and not be able to focus on you for a moment, they're there, and they see you, and maybe a finger comes up and your eyes can meet, and there's that moment. Maybe there's a tear, but it's a real, true moment of connection. And then the shell closes again. And that doesn't diminish that moment. They are who they were, but they're different. They are still there. They are still our mothers and our fathers and sisters, and in my case, grandmother, all the way to the end. So I'm gonna bring my grandmother back to the picture. So this is her and her sister Gladys. So they were both born in Japan, and some of these little facts I put up before. So you saw her in about 1991 at my wedding. She could no longer live independently, and by 1992 she moved up with my parents, but she didn't pass away until about 2001. So her journey with dementia symptoms was quite long, from 85 until 2001. And in terms of her GEMS journey, each person, as I mentioned before, is unique and goes through their journey differently, and that was true of my family members and residents Halikuki. But she stayed at the diamond and then emerald stage for almost her whole life, until I would say 1999, moving to ruby and quickly to pearl, to pass away. So not every person is going to go through all the gems in the same way. Someone might be earlier in the wheel, and other causes might contribute to passing away, which not the full journey of dementia. But I wanted to share about my grandmother's end of life and her sister, and which is why I put this slide up with her picture. This is at my son's first birthday party in 1996. So the Japanese was their first language, and the two sisters, Gladys lived in Kahala, and my grandma and my whole family, and I still do, lived in Hauula. So it was like city mouse, country mouse, those two sisters. Gladys did not like to ride in cars, so we always went to visit her. So my whole life, it was very exciting to go to her place because they had a pool. Anyway, so, but towards the end of, when my grandmother was getting close, in the later years of her life, she started to revert more back towards speaking Japanese and less English. And my mother and I were both not very good at Japanese. My mom got kicked out of Japanese school as a young girl, and then I took a couple years in high school, which did not get me very far. By the time the 90s came, I'd forgotten most all of it. But anyway, so when she was getting close to the end of her life, under hospice care, my cousin drove my Auntie Gladys out to Hauula to be able to see her. And my grandmother at that point was very, very contracted and bedbound. And we were not able to really connect with her. We would hold her hand, but we weren't able to get any kind of eye contact or sign that we knew that she was there, or that she knew that we were there. And then her sister came, and when Gladys came into her bedroom and started speaking to her in Japanese and went over and held her hand, you could see her open her eyes and look at her and say something. Don't know what, I don't know if it was most likely not comprehensible, but that shell opened, and she were there, and the two of them, she was Dorothy, her sister, and they were connected. And it was true meeting of those two minds. You know, hearing her voice, hearing that language, it was really, really moving. And I've told the story many times, and I get choked up every single time. But so she passed away. So my aunt left. She probably stayed for maybe 30 minutes or so with her. And the very next day she passed away, and she had been pretty close. So, you know, that, I would say, of all the lessons my grandmother taught me about dementia, that was, I think, one of the greatest ones, that she was still there. And the people that we love and care for professionally, personally, even though there's so many changes in their brains, they really are still there. And we can reach them and connect them and love them and value them as much as when they had healthy brains. Because just because I have a degenerative brain disease doesn't make me any less of a human being. So I want to go to the next one here. I want to do a little quick review here. You did the pre-test. The changes in my brain that caused me and my grandmother to ask the same questions over and over again. For you, it's the 50th time I've asked this, but for me, it's the first. Reminding me of it is not, if I could remember that I'd asked it before, I wouldn't be asking it again. So this one is false. The best solution, reminding it usually will only lead to that kind of headbutting that I was talking about. Like, no, I didn't tell you. You didn't tell me before. We talked about this one a little bit, you know, arguing, correcting. You are never going to win that argument. And when you point out, you know, that I've spilled my juice on my shirt, no, this is a clean shirt. We are just going to argue and argue, and we're not going to get anywhere. So stop, take a step back, take a deep breath. It's really hard to not correct people, and it's really hard to not try and convince them that you are right. It's really, really hard. But being able to let go of that will go a long way for both of you. Giving strong orders to a person in the early stage dementia is the best way to ask them to do something. So if we think back to that rigid diamond, and also to ourselves, how many people like being given strong orders? We are having a hard time following. In this pandemic, we're given a lot of orders, and it's not so easy to follow, but nobody likes to be ordered around. So finding a way to rephrase it so that it's not me telling you like a parent, or me giving you the feeling I'm trying to boss you around. So that one is false. Sometimes you have to wait a long time for a person living with dementia to respond to you. Yes, the brain changes you saw in the PET scan, and even in the early stages, our processing speed gets slower and slower. So when you ask me a question, you may need to pause and wait a number of seconds. And that silence is hard for us. We get uneasy in silence, but it helps me to count in my head 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, just to give myself something to do while I'm waiting. And then the last one is definitely false, that there is nothing a caregiver can do to communicate the end stage. There are many ways to communicate. We're doing one way right now, which is you're looking at me on camera and I'm talking and giving you visual cues and verbal cues, but there's touch as well. There's music. There's so many different ways that we can connect. And at the end stages, there are ways as well. So this is with a handout that Jody sent to you. And so this webinar we're doing is a kind of an overview of the GEMS, but there's this handout will allow you to go deeper with more specifics about each of the GEM states. And the second page is something I really love. And the one thing I love about it is written in the first person. So one of the things we really strive to do at the Positive Approach to Care, and also here at Halikuike means House of Understanding, is to not just put ourselves in the person living with dementia's shoes, but like in their body. How do I see the world? And I like how these are written, so it's as if I am speaking. So for the emerald, I am flawed, and it is part of my being a natural emerald, right? I am not aware of my own safety or changing abilities. So reading those out loud to yourself to try and put yourself in that place and see what's different. So that's I find a useful tool. You will be getting at the email with links to more information about the GEMS, resources on the Positive Approach to Care website where you can go more in depth, more tools. So if you, in the course of this, you say, you know, oh gosh, after this, I think my mom is an emerald. So what can I learn more about emeralds? There is more to learn. There's more the actual techniques. So we'll go there. So I wanted to share this video here. This is Teepa Snow. And she's doing a lecture here. And this is specifically about repetitive questions and stories, which I know something that many can struggle with. So I'm going to just play it here so you can hear. So she was role playing someone in approximately the diamond state. Whoops, sorry, go back. Okay, here we go. Press the right button. Oh, I don't hear the sound. Hold on. Hold on. My moderators, can you hear the sound there?
Dorothy, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You would have to close out of share screen and enter share screen again and put on turn on computer audio
Oh,
when
I'm
you
looking at.
start the share screen.
Okay, hold on. Let me redo it. I had it working right.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Sorry for the technical difficulties, everyone. I'm just gonna stop share and then come back on share. Sorry about that. Stop share. Share. PowerPoint. Let's see if this works. Okay, hold on. Okay, I have share sound. I have share audio. I have the volume up. Okay, let's try one more time.
It's that little pull down when you start to share the screen. There's that little thing that says share computer audio.
Yeah, I have that on. I have that
Wow.
on. Yeah, I have share computer sound on. Gosh, I'm sorry, you guys. Hold on. Hold on. I'm going to try one last thing. Thank you for your patience. Just one last thing here. I'll get it back up. I just restarted the PowerPoint. Yeah, it's not playing the audio. I don't know why. Hold on just one second. Okay. All right. Well, my apologies for that. What I will do is, I don't want to hold this up here.
Maybe during Q&A or something if there's time.
Yeah. Let me go back to view current slide here. I'm going to go forward a second. If I can get those videos working when we're going through the end, I can play them again. I'll get if not, I can get the link to send everybody so that it'll work. So my apologies for that, being unable to play those two for you so that you could see. I think actually I'm gonna play this one even though you don't hear the sound as an example, because there are actually very, very few words. I know this video pretty well, so I will speak the general words that Teepa does. So this woman here is a woman who's a resident at a care facility and had permission to show her image. She is reached approximately the amber state, and Teepa is helping her comb her own hair. So I want you to notice her slow pace and then the simple words I'm going to use, but specifically because she's using fewer words, she's unable to process longer complex sentences. Notice the silences and notice the visual and touch cues that Teepa gives on this one here. So I will press play here. So we're going to help comb her hair. That's good. That's good. Do the other side. I'm going to show you the other side. So she's showing. Not quite getting it. Show one more time, pointing. And then she gives her a little touch. There, that's it. That's it. Good, now the back. Again, with the cueing. Yeah, the back. Touch, she's trying the same technique, touch the back. She's not able to make that, so she puts her hand under her hand and just gets her started. Now she's doing it. Thank you. Thank you for helping. You look beautiful. Can I give you a hug? You're a wonderful woman. So that's me dubbing, dubbing the Tipa video. But everything slowed down. Lots of visual cues. In this time of COVID-19, when we're all wearing masks as well, we're a little impaired with our own understanding of each other. Visual cueing is even more important. So in kind of in a summary, um, I'm so glad to have been able to share an overview of the GEMS classification system to find a way for us to talk with each other about the people we love living with dementia, that all individuals, no matter what state of being, in the right setting, with the right care, they can shine all throughout this journey. We are going to be having more webinars, and you will be getting a link to all of these three. There'll be one on caregiver stress on the 23rd of this month, and then next month, 2 more. It's all in your approach. That's more about making the physical connections and increasing communication. And then October 15th, on challenging behaviors, recognizing unmet needs. And so Jody and I will be sending you various emails with the links to that. We really appreciate your input. So when you leave this webinar, we will be putting up the questionnaire, we will be putting up the survey for you to fill out. And I am going to put up now the poll, hold on here, the post-test poll, that if you would all please, same 5 questions as the pre-test, if you wouldn't mind, while we go through the Q&A section next, if you wouldn't mind filling this out. Okay, Jody, are there any things you want to add about the poll or the questionnaire at the end before we go to the Q&A?
No, just to fill it out if you can, and that would help us a great deal. And there's going to be another little eval when you all close out, which Dorothy will tell you about, which we really love it when you respond like this, because then we can report it to the grant folks. And again, it's all anonymous. So thank you so much.
Yeah, so yeah, these polls are anonymous, everything. The survey at the end is anonymous as well. So it's great. We always want to make improvements, and we'll make improvements on the video, the video showing. I'm not sure what happened there, but thank you for your patience through that, and we'll make it work in the future. So I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen so you see me fully, and Jody is going to help me take a look at what questions came in. We'll leave the poll up, the post-test poll up, so that you can all still participate. But yeah, Jody.
Yeah, I'm going to just read some questions.
Let me know which
you want to just
questions you think we should go.
Do you want me to read them, or can you see them? Which one would you like to? Because I think there's not as many as there were last week.
Can you come back on screen for a sec, Jody?
Sure. Hi. Yeah. So do you want? I'll just read it to you. So the first question that came in, as I look at the various stages.
Okay, I'm good.
Oh, good. Okay.
Okay.
Did you not hear me there for a second?
Yeah, I got you. Okay, I didn't hear you for a second. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. As I look at the various stages, I can see that my mom exhibits attributes within the diamond, sapphire, and emerald. My question is, when my mom clearly exhibits more of the attributes in a specific gem, do I look at a more focused support for that specific gem?
That's a great question. That is a great question, and thank you for that question too, because it's something I didn't actually say during the course of the recording. So it is not a rigid, like boom boom boom, moving from one gem to the other. It is a kind of a flow state. So for us, being sapphire, under pressure, we can become rigid and inflexible. And I know that is probably happening with each and every one of us during this pandemic. It's when we're under stress, we can move towards being more diamond. in our outlook and our reactions. But when we can stop and take a breath, we can move back. So same for people living with dementia at different stages along the journey. If there is some external stress or change, you know, there's a environment change, or maybe I have a UTI, or I didn't get enough sleep, you might see me have my dementia change more towards the next stage over, or show some signs. So that is true, yes. So there can be some fluctuation, or as my dementia is progressing, I may fluctuate some between gems before I move more firmly into the next one. So wherever I am in that moment, yes, you would need to have a more focused approach, just in terms of when I'm doing, let's say everything's all in a row, my routine is the same, I'm feeling good, I have no UTI, I got a good night's sleep, I can do these things myself. Great, that is great. I'm going to help and support you with that. But when I can't, because you know, my sleep is interrupted or something else is going on, then my type of support needs to change. Yeah. So yes.
The same person, I took my mom's car keys away when she was unable to find reverse on her console panel.
Oh, yeah.
She would also drive to a familiar destination, and once she arrives, not remember why she's there.
Yes.
Give me your keys, Mom. That's just a comment that he's making.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. That is one of the, well, there's so many special challenges along the journey of dementia for us, and for those we love caring for. But yeah, the car key thing, it's really, really hard. It's hard for the person. It's a, you know, independence, autonomy, and it's hard for us. Generally, a lot of times it's the children who need to take the keys away. You're reversing roles there, but definitely living with dementia affects your ability to drive safely, to know where you're going, getting lost in a familiar destination. Yeah. So just the way, you know, we don't want people who are impaired in other ways driving as well, but it's not an easy thing, for sure.
Okay, so the next question, I noticed a lot of different things from some of the gems that my grandmother does. Mm-hmm. My grandmother tends to try and throw trash out of my car, and she tends to always call her bank on her phone to check her account, and wonders why the money is there, or there's money in there, or withdraws that she doesn't remember she did.
Yeah. So yeah, the money thing is hard. My grandmother also would obsess about money, and would write checks to the same place over and over again, and then wonder why the money wasn't there. So she's making mistakes. She's not aware of it, and her short-term memory couldn't hold on to that she had done that. And so those are all those mysterious and frustrating behaviors. It's like, you know, Grandma, you already wrote that check. You know, what are you doing? Why are you? I am not giving my money away. She can't see it, and those are when I said you can't see the brain change, because you can't see the brain, but you can see it by that behavior. The fact that my grandmother was writing the same check over and over again, that is a window into her brain and what's happening with it. About throwing the trash out of the car, you know, we all like think things, and when you're little, like if you think of little kids, if you're done, I'm done eating this, I'm just gonna throw it down. You don't have any impulse control, and we gain impulse control, and the frontal lobe is one of the first ones, the executive center, that's affected, and so I start to lose my impulse control. So if I don't like this, I might just spit it out on the floor. What are you spitting out on the floor for? Like, oh, well, that was terrible. You eat that crap. But it's like, she never used to do this. But it's because I've lost my impulse control. So my kind of guess would be that too. It's like, oh, trash, right out the window. And then in the very old days, you said it was your grandmother. People did used to throw trash out the window. I remember the give a hoot, don't pollute in the 70s.
Okay, yep. We're getting a lot more here. It is understood that some changes due to either standard old aging and or dementia conditions are anticipated. Seems a compensation technique for the affected person, such as writing items down, could be helpful. Although may not eliminate all the issues, seems it could help alleviate some of the difficulties.
Mhm.
Also, it's acknowledged that not all items could be addressed via a writing method and that it could take considerable effort to employ. However, the approach for the aging person and the caregiver may be that something helpful is better than nothing. What are your thoughts on the viability difficulty techniques on establishing such a system?
Yeah, no, that is great. Yeah, that is all true. So as we are aging, this is our sapphire brains, because things are slowing down or we're not able to maybe hold on to many things in our working memory at once, we employ compensating techniques like taking notes or post-its and things like that. And they do help. They do help us remember things. If for myself, if I don't write it down or make myself a checklist, guarantee I'm going to forget something. I cannot hold it all in my head, especially these days. Like I said, it's extra stress, and my brain doesn't work as well as it did pre-pandemic. And I try to be honest with myself about it and to cut myself a break, give myself a little grace there. But yes, so if you try it and a person's living with dementia at the early stages and it's helping, great, then do it. You may start as things go down the road to see post-its everywhere, conflicting post-its, and things are still not remembered. So for example, my grandmother used to go to a senior center, and she was fixated on what time is the van coming. She'd come out of her room over and over again. What time's the van coming? What time? 10 o'clock, 10 o'clock. It got to the point where, and again, we didn't know anything about dementia. She would come out of the room and my mother and I would turn around before she even asked the question, 10 o'clock, how rude, right? But so what do? We did some things that did help in the beginning. We put a big sign in a room with a picture of the van, says van comes at 10 o'clock. We got one of those Alzheimer's clocks, which is gigantic, the big new number so you could see the time. She had a calendar, which you had to, and those things did help for a while. But when they start not working, you'll know. We might tend to cling to them, like, Mom, you wrote it in your calendar. Why? It says it right here. Pause. If I could have read that calendar and remembered, I would have. I wouldn't be asking you. But yes. So the question is yes, it does help. Try it. If it helps, great. When it stops working, let it go.
Okay. So we have love the gem scale, emphasizing that we're addressing a person not being a number. Is a person described as one gem or multiple? As it progresses, or how it was described? There's another question about this same thing.
Sure. Okay, go ahead.
Later, it's the same thing about how they. Person can be multiple.
Similar question. Yeah. So one thing about the gem system, kind of like any system, our brains, our human brains, we love systems, we love labels. So it's like, which one am I? Which one is my mom? Which one? So more than that, that handout that you got emailed that had the first person description, more than focusing on the actual which gem it is specifically, is to look at what they're showing you and what they're telling you through their words, lack of words, actions, the mistakes that they're making, to kind of see where they are in that moment. So you can cross gems. So you might notice there's some things that are diamond-like about me and some emerald, and that's okay. So don't worry too much about the which one gem it is. Kind of see that. Generally, they'll be fluctuating between a couple, and only move more than that if there's some big stressor, like an illness or an infection or something like that. But generally, people move between a couple, so you're not going to necessarily go from diamond to pearl, crossover that way.
This is a good question, but isn't it sometimes necessary to correct or give a clear instructions for safety reasons, like reminding her the complex is on lockdown and you can't walk to Safeway?
Yeah. So reminding and corrections we do it with each other. We have to remind each other. The question is whether it is productive and working or not. So if you find yourself, every few minutes, like giving the same correction, the same, no, mom, you can't go outside because, you know, it's a lot that we're not allowed to just walk out there on our own. You know, you've got, you know, if you find yourself, and this is you entering a diamond state, repeating and saying the same thing over and over again, and it's clear they're not able to hold on to that, you're going to exhaust yourself and get into that kind of frustrating loop for both of you. So if reminders do work, great. It's the but when you find that they're not working anymore, you know, telling me I can't go is just going to make me mad, or you're just going to have to do it 50 times, and then you'll lose your temper, which is normal. You know, we're only human, but pause, think of something else. So instead of telling me I can't come out, maybe there's something you can help engage me with here, so I don't think about going out. So you don't have to tell me I can't go out, but oh my goodness, all this laundry needs folding. Can you help me with this? And so maybe for those a half hour, you'll get me to do something and I won't be going for the door. So that's what I mean by, we get into this vicious circle of correction and explaining. I told you. And that's, it's gonna go nowhere.
Okay, thank you for that. This is another good one. If mom could, she would sleep all day. When she gets up, no matter what time, she thinks it's morning and starts her morning routine. Do I just let her go?
Yeah. The first thing I would make sure that if this is keep her PCP up to date. You know, is this her normal routine, or is this a change? If she had been not sleeping all day recently, and then this is a change, you know, to get that checked out to make sure there isn't something else going on. Yeah, thinking it's morning each time you wake up. That is not uncommon. If her morning routine is not something that's dangerous, you know, putting on a new shirt every time, so it makes a little more laundry, but it's not a real danger. If there's no real harm, I would say just let it go. Just in general, if something is not a real harm, even though it may seem weird, or that's my advice a lot of the times, is to let something go unless it's raises to a higher level. So if I'm brushing I wake up, and let's say I wake up in the morning and I brush my teeth, and then I sleep most of the day, and then I insist I need to brush my teeth again, no harm. But if I'm brushing my teeth like every 5 minutes and brushing so much that I'm making my gums bleed, that's like a different level. That's something else.
Thank you. Okay. I think the hardest part about going through this with my grandmother is that she forgot me, even though I'm with her every day, all day, but remembers others that is never around. It got to the point where I'm making her a memory book, putting up old and new photos for her. Plus, I had to show her my birth certificate to prove I am related to her.
Yeah. Well, we made a photo book, memory book for my grandmother, and many of our residents here have those. So that is the forgetting me. That is a very hard one for our hearts. It's and it can be I might not recognize my husband or my children. There's some amount of detective work to be done on around this, and that, you know, what time of my life am I living in now? I might be 85, but from what I say and do, you might be able to tell I'm waiting for my parents to pick me up, or I have to go pick my kids up from school. So if I think I'm at a time in my life when I have to pick my kids up from school, they haven't had their grandchildren yet. And even though it's not quite so cut and dry, sometimes things are mixed up. I might recognize a grandchild and think my kids are in school, but things are different. So like looking at, pictures is a wonderful way to look at things together. Looking at pictures of you when you were quite young, and I'm not sure how old you are with your grandmother right now, but I know for as we get older and our kids get older, we look at them like, how did these turn into grown-ups? And now, how is my son like 30? Or, you know, I remember my mother used to say, I can't believe you're 50. I'm like, oh God. So finding ways to connect, maybe looking at a picture of your parent, her child holding you as a baby, and sometimes just letting go of having them recognize us by name, and you can almost talk about yourself in the third person when you're looking at the picture, like, oh, look at that. I don't know if it's your mom or dad that's her child, but you know, oh, look, they're holding baby Jasmine, yeah, or something like that, or whether it, and you can talk. You might hear stories that you might not have heard otherwise. So yeah. It's I had a family member who um, uh, his wife was not recognizing him when he came in, and we all wear name tags here. I don't have it on, and we wear it on the high right like this, so that it's easier. The right hand side, it's easier for them to see our name in big print. And he started wearing one of these when he came to visit her, and he would point at it and say, you know, his name, and then she would look at it and say his name, and it just took a little while, and they were able to connect that way. But if you would, if you just asked, you know, recognize me, she would not have. Yeah. But being there, being present, being known as a person who loves them and cares about them, is such a great gift. And yeah, they can't help not being able to put the name to it sometimes.
Maybe we can try to squeeze in a few more here. There's just one comment about the
Okay.
mayor's order to do only solo outings, which makes it really hard for caregivers in the same household. I'm going to skip that one and move on.
Yeah, I'll just say a real quick on that one. So the places that are solo outings are, you know, the parks and things. I think walking together on a public sidewalk and things are allowed. I think
there has to be an exception, I would think, for people that are caregivers.
But I don't think there's, you know, there's it's a stay-at-home order. It's hard. Yeah. It's hard for it's hard. Yeah.
Okay, my wife's aphasia, even her sister cannot understand her, and sleep disruptions seem more advanced than the rest of her symptoms. She's very strong, mows the front yard with a real style push mower and insists on doing it, but cannot remember how to use hedge clippers, can't remember how to use a fork and knife. Would she be Amber or Ruby?
Wow, that is very strong, because push mowers are really hard. If we think about so each different cause of dementia can affect different parts of the brain. So there are some that might cause speech language impairment much more severely, more early than others. You know, talking to the physician, we could get a better picture of what what's going on there. But that she's very strong. So if you think about pushing I was having you like hold a hammer and squeeze pliers. Push mowers like that. That's a strength thing. It's like, and then you have to really put your whole body in it. That's a gross motor action. Fork and knife, fine motor there. So the fine motor really starts to go even in the amber stage. The can't remember how to use a fork and knife. It might be that I don't have a plate here in my dining room. I don't have a plate, but the plate and fork are sitting on the table, and I might just stare at it, and I just don't know how to get started. I'll just look at it. But if someone puts the fork in my hand and helps me get started, once I get started, I might be able to do it, but I just can't start up. So you are correct. That sounds like it would be between Amber and Ruby. So take a look at that handout, the one, and look at the details on the two side, and you might find traits in both. Yeah, but boy, that is strong. I haven't tried a push mower in a while, but that's very impressive.
Okay, what, Jim, does a person with dementia, the walking capability, become an issue?
So it depends. There's a lot of issues going on. It depends on the cause of dementia. You know, for example, someone with Parkinson's related dementia might have, or Lewy bodies might have earlier mobility and balance issues, and that's like its own thing. Their vision changes, so they become more tunnel vision. So while I might physically be able to walk, I'm less aware of things around me, and I trip over things that seem obvious to you, like my own walker or things like that. the mobility can be impaired for different reasons at different gem states, but in terms of physical gait and things, towards Ruby is when you really start to see, you know, I can't process the steps to, like, you'll say, like, hey, let's go, and I'll say, yeah, come on, take a step. Mm-hmm. And I just can't take that first step, or I get started and I don't know how to stop. So Ruby, you really start to see it. But there are changes that will affect mobility all along. So
Let's do just one more here.
okay.
Someone is asking for you to elaborate on the last poll question.
The last poll, let me look here. Last poll question. Oh, so the last poll question is, there is nothing a caregiver can do to communicate with a person at the end stage of dementia. At the end stage, and I've even heard people say, and it's not, you know, we're all just doing the best we can, and it's hard to understand, but, you know, especially at the end stage, it seems like they're not there. And it's like, why should I visit? You know, they don't even know I'm there. I can easily see how people might feel like that even earlier on. They don't remember me. They don't remember I came. Why should I come? But the end stage in particular, because they're so closed up, and like a lot of times eyes are closed, and you can't communicate in the ways we used to, that it's easy for people to feel like there is nothing to be done. But the palm to palm pressure, and if you take a look at that handout again, is a way to be connected. Music remains being able to process music. So I might not be able to speak, but I might be able to hum and say the words of music that I've known my whole life. And like my example with my grandmother, you know, that moment in time where they do open up, that shell can open up. So that's why that statement is false. Okay, well, we're reaching the end of our time here.
Yeah, we are.
So I would just, if there are any questions that I did not answer live, I will write them all up. It takes me a few days to do my written homework, and I will email it all to you if there are any that I didn't answer. And then this is recorded, and it will be, you'll get an email from Jody, a link to the page that has all the recordings. So I want to thank everyone for coming, and thank you, Jody and Diane, for hosting and making this possible through this grant. And I want to thank each and every one of you for what you do every day, caring for the person that you love living with dementia. And to please take care of yourselves as well. Stay safe, take care of your body, take care of your brain. I hope to see you at a future webinar. Anything Jody, anything from you?
Just that the next session is on October 1st, and I will send everybody a reminder about that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. Bye.